Hello everybody, welcome back to Morrowind. Let's discuss Morrowind more precisely. Hope you're all doing well. My name is Veriax and this is a non-gameplay video in which I will just talk about the Let's Play, go through some of your comments, the recent ones, and just address a couple of things and whatever and whatnot, and then we shall read some of the books that we have collected. Now the latter reason is more of why I'm doing this, because you guys have been like super awesome in the comments and are really quite encouraging with the Let's Play, so I really appreciate that, but there's not much I can like bounce back with it, and I'm not really complaining at all, but I can't make a video of entirely of thanks. But now that I am here and I'm doing a video which will mostly be reading, I reckon, I will say thank you very much for enjoying this Let's Play, for your comments, and for your continued support throughout it. So, yeah, here we are, just looking out over here. So I have your comments right in front of me on my laptop. So this is from sort of last week onwards, I would say. So let's just dig in there and see see what we have. So let's see. This is bland, isn't it? Okay. Yeah, so this will only be from this week, I reckon. So let's see. Let's see. Let's have a look. See what we got. I thought this might be a better way of doing it, but turns out it kind of isn't. So David said the Archmagister's robes gave me the lightning shield that I saw about halfway through last episode, but I ain't seen it. I did test this. I've just been testing it now with all the gloves and all this stuff that I got. So if we take it all off, I don't have any kind of shields on me right now. And then if I put the Archmagister's robe on, still no shield. So I can only assume the shield was part of the trap, which makes no sense, like I first suspected. But I did actually want you to be right, because it'd be really cool to have like a lightning shield on or something, especially to counteract this. But it turns out it's not. So I tried like equipping the gloves with it as well, and the seal of the Archmagister. Nothing seemed to add the shield. So I do think it was part of the trap rather than the Archmagister's robe, unless something's bugged out or whatever. I don't know, but I can only say what's in front of me, and what's in front of me is the fact that there is no shield effect at all added by this gear, which is a shame, but never mind. So Chris Ware, yes, thank you, I had a good week. Haley F, yes, honestly my favourite bit about Sundays. That's good. I'm really glad that like for some of you this has been built in as part of your routine. That's kind of what I wanted, and for some of you at least it has happened. I didn't really have it to be like the best part of the day, but maybe you have very quiet lives or something, I don't know, but fantastic, lovely. Some of you told me about your lives and stuff, which is really nice. I don't often reply to them because you can get bogged down with stuff like that, and I'd rather stick to the gameplay, but it's nice that you guys decided to tell me how you are and stuff. Radix says, to be frank with you, I really didn't enjoy the quest design of Rise of Hellstolvani. That being said, you seem to be enjoying it so far, so I hope you have a better experience than I did. Well, I've only done one quest, and that is to find one of 3 NPCs that can run that place over there. So yeah, so far so good on that, but I don't know, we'll have to wait and see. I'm actually looking forward to seeing it and hearing some of your thoughts about Rise of Hellstolvani, because now that we're in there, now that we are the Archmagister of Hellstolvani, and let's just think about that for a second. Karish is the Archmagister of Hellstolvani. Boom. And now we are going to lead it into the rise of Helstilvani. And yeah, mods often try and do things differently. They try and stand out, try to be innovative, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, that can lead to some quirkiness and stuff. And sometimes it's just nice to get back to the base game. But sadly, thankfully, I can do that with the main quest. Isn't it unusual? Because we haven't been doing the main quest very much at all lately. But we've seen it with Camel Z, and now we're going to get into Rise of Helstilvani. A lot more modded stuff going on. A shame they made this suit but didn't, you know, made the gloves clip into the sleeves there. Shame. But anyway, so there's that. So yeah, more modded stuff, and I'm looking forward to both watching it and to hear about your experiences. Though of course, you know, if you keep them spoiler free, that'd be just dandy. Okay, so next, yeah, an RP reason. Okay, so add a B, an RP reason to go to Hasur, the Ash Canyon, south of Fort Moonmoth, to get rid of the Ash zombies from spawning in Balmora and stuff. Maybe Karish can have a dream about it. Well, he has been dreaming quite a lot, and it could. That's a good way of doing it. It could point us towards that direction, sort of lead us in there. Little contrived maybe, but it is a good way of doing it. I do think that we are going to be continuing the main quest pretty soon. I just need to find a reason to do that, and the reason is, of course, the Ash zombies. Having said that, I've been having such a good momentum lately with both Camel Z, and then we did Helstilvani, and we sort of like hit the ground running with both of those and did them for a couple episodes, and it seemed pretty unnatural to stop either of them. But now that we are in this position we are, I suppose like next week would be a good time to continue the main quest, because we've like made it in Helstilvani, haven't we? Having said that, the Tel Arivith's grave has, is that it? I can't remember. Arivith's grave at least has a lot of content in it, and it keeps drawing me back there. There's a steward, there's an apprentice, you know, I got wages to pay and all that kind of stuff. So that's really neat, but it's like it keeps distracting me from the main quest. But I need to start that, so I'll probably do the main quest instead of going to Hasur and seeing like where that goes with stopping the Ash zombies. I don't know, we'll kind of see. Bemused and Bewildered has a leaking radiator. So, but now with Karish has cheered you up, so you're welcome, man. You're absolutely welcome. Okay, so all up rat. When this all started, I thought that given Karish's personality, Tilvani was the worst house he could have chosen. But now look where he is. I'm looking forward to Rise of Helstilvani playing out. Karish is going to make some interesting decisions, more than likely. Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of kept Karish's personality kind of hidden. I mean, it's still kind of out there, isn't it? But Karish isn't a particularly nice guy. He's kind of selfish. He's kind of lazy. So, you know, he gets others to fight for him. He still doesn't like touching stuff that's icky and everything. He prefers to do as little as possible. But it just turns out that, you know, with Morrowind you have to do quite a bit anyway. So I thought the Helstilvani was a good pick, honestly, but maybe that didn't come across. But you know, I think that when he killed the slaves, I think that was like a wake up call for some people. I don't know, tell me if I'm wrong. You know, the fact that he's not some goody two shoes who'll just always do the right thing. So it's a kind of a apathetic view on a lot of things in the world, I guess. But it's obviously paid off because here he is, and yeah, we made it, and now it is night time. So Jake, alright, hope you had a good weekend. So Andrea, travel ring money should be returned, at least that's what Arivith, the UL page, which I guess is Television Unleashed or something, says. So that's good. I just have to find that. So the travel money when I equip this ring, which you probably still equipped now, but this wire ring, right, it's there. Tell Arivith. when I travel back, it charges me about 30 gold or whatever, or maybe even more, I can't remember, and I should be able to get that back somehow. So, have to look into that, but that's cool. That's alright. I didn't really have like a massive problem with being charged, really, because it could just go towards running, like I said last time, but if I can get the money back, Karish probably will. So, Russ, I think Karish will need to taunt the lady with the Drake's Pride a bit in order to lower her disposition. So that she attacks me, basically. Now, I think that with a Frenzy 100 spell, I'm not entirely sure, but I think that with a Frenzy 100 for 2 seconds, she'll just attack me anyway. I know I've done that countless times with Chabronius in like my own playthroughs and stuff to get the Necromancer's Amulet and stuff like that. But having said that, he's never had that higher disposition. So honestly, I don't know how it works. Karish isn't very good at taunting. Surprisingly, really, you think he would be. He does actually have pretty high personality now. Relatively. At 54, but when it comes to speechcraft, 6. So I don't think taunting is really a thing that we can do at all. So I'm going to have to try the Frenzy Humanoid spell with a rather large magnitude on it, I suppose. Try and get her to attack me so I can steal the robe, unless I kill everybody in the tower, which of course I could do if I wanted to. So the episode of hauling my gear to the stronghold could be a Let's Discuss. Indeed it could. I probably will, because I probably have nothing else to talk about. I'm going to do a episode where I just bring everything to Tel Arivith from Caius' house and various other places I've got stuff stashed, and store it all away and make it all look awesome. And so that will be a bonus episode, a bit like this, but with me actually doing stuff. And I think just with the nature of that, I will be talking about stuff like the Let's Play, because I'll have nothing else to talk about during it. Wicked Lester, why are there never any other mages flying around like Karish? Is there even a mod for it? I don't know if there is a mod, but we did see a cleaning lady flying last episode, in episode 60, I believe. And that was kind of neat. So NPCs can have the effect on them, but I don't know, it would be kind of neat, wouldn't it? Just see random people going backwards and forwards to places. But it's not something I'm really going to look into. I think that was just idle thoughts. Really, Karish should really invest in a real bow and spear from Andrew Radatz. You're right, he should, but he won't, because you have finished that off with. But it's Karish, and you're right. We do have a glass dagger now. This one right here. For cooking and stuff, basically. It's a very expensive glass dagger, but you know what? Have I got silverware yet? That's something I keep meaning to pick up, because I'm carrying this crappy wooden bowl and wooden cup and stuff. We need to be carrying proper cutlery around with us, befitting of our stature. So that's a priority for next episode, unless I forget, which I probably will. But yeah, actual equipment to fight with. No, I mean I have to do the arrows, which is a shame because I'd rather not. But now that we've increased our strength a little bit, it's it's all good. It's fine. I can carry them without it being too much of an impact on gameplay. Ice, that was hilarious. You kill his master, so he steals your girl. You're talking about the guy over in the hole in the wall, over there, wherever it is, where he's talking about Edwina. And we've had a thing for Edwina. Edwina really helped us with the Dwemer thing, and vice versa. And we think we had kind of a little thing with her, but I guess Karish is unlucky in love, and so someone else is kind of maybe getting in there, wheedling his way in there. But is Karish going to take the lion down? For now, I think he'll have to, because again, I can't really taunt anybody. I will try with the spell that we've got, probably, because Russ replies with, I consider that being a new quest. Who knows how Karish will react? Yeah, he might sleep on that and go, hang on a minute, I'm not taking that lion down. Go back and batter that dude who's in the hole in the wall. We'll see. Maybe kill everyone in the hole in the wall if he has to. The fact is that Karish could now. He could. He's, despite being a complete... He's not even like a glass cannon. He's just glass. Armor 17. We do have 99 health, which is pretty good, I guess, with endurance of 40. That doesn't ever increased, does it? But all his work is done by minions, and his minions tend to be a little bit derpy at some point. he's kind of screwed when there's two enemies at once because they'll all have to go after the same one, which leaves Karish running away from the other one. I wouldn't change it for the world. And I believe that's kind of it. But once again, you know, your comments are really great. I really like reading about how your lives are going. As insignificant as it is to me, obviously, and you know, your thoughts about where you think the LP should go and stuff. I do welcome that kind of thing because there are times, you know, like I mentioned at the start of last episode, where I was just like, I don't know what to do now. What should I do? And then we ended up just like, you know, becoming the Archmagister of House Sylvani. Now, the Mages Guild is something that we can really look into as well. Because I don't know if I can run both of them. I don't think I can, but I could probably, and I welcome anyone to tell me this, challenge Trebonius to a duel at some point. Now, the Mages Guild also want me to go up here as well, so that's to the Urshulaku camp. So that's 2 birds in 1 stone sort of thing. And then we're currently, you know, a warlock. At some point, we should be able to challenge Trebonius, not only for the fact that, you know, just he's got like a nice amulet and stuff that I kind of want, but also, you know, he's a fraud.
New species of creature has entered your dungeon.
You know, that keeps happening, doesn't it? That just keeps happening. I don't know why. I need to turn that off. But thank you for following my Twitch channel, whoever you are. I wonder how people find that without me streaming. People following on YouTube and or on Twitter and stuff. I don't know. Anyway. Right, well, I think that's enough wittering on, but in summary, thank you very much for your continued support and attention in Let's Play. Very much appreciate it. It's really great having you guys along for the ride. You're obviously really invested by now, and long may it continue. We're probably about halfway through. I don't want to like just throw stuff out there really, but Tribunal hasn't kicked in. And I don't really know why. I'm not sure if I'm missing it, because I think Karish has enough to do. The reason I kind of wanted to do Tribunal is because I haven't done it before, which I know may be a surprise to a lot of you, but no, Tribunal is something that I haven't finished. I got a fair way into it and then just kind of stopped, because my attention tends to wane, especially when I was younger. So I just thought this will be a good opportunity to do so. However, might not be possible now with sort of the pace of the LP. We'll kind of see. We'll kind of see. I might put it to a vote if and when it kicks in. But if it doesn't kick in, or if it kicks in at the end of the main quest, I don't know whether I'll bother with it. We'll kind of see. But I'm kind of happy with the way that it's going right now with the side thing with the Dwemer and stuff was really cool, and I just think it's got a really nice pace now with Kemel Z coming into the fore with that. As like a climax to that sort of little side quest, if you like, of Karish's character. House Sylvani's going strong, and that's running concurrently with the main quest. So there's plenty in there, as well as the odd side quest here and there, and sort of the Mages Guild as a side hobby, if you like, to keep Karish occupied. So I don't know if we need to start warping backwards and forwards to the mainland. And Mournhold and stuff. I don't really know. Right then, I'm going to have a jump cut here, and then we're going to read some books. Wasn't that jarring? Okay, so we're in our quarters here. We'll close the door for some privacy. And I believe it's this set really around here. The Ruins of Kemel Z we've read. The papers we can read. I'm not sure about the vampires. We might do them all together. Spirit of Daedra I'm not going to bother with. So it's basically just these 3 and possibly the papers. But I could have like a vampire session at some point if we get all the papers together and everything that I'm pretty sure I've read. Yeah, I don't think I've read that. So, but we might have like a vampire session at some point. I think it's nice to read them all together. So these 3. So, 2920 Frostfall. By Karl Ovak Townway. Okay, so, in High Rock. The creature before them blinked, senseless, its eyes glazed, mouth opening and closing as if relearning its function. A thin glob of saliva burbled down between its fangs and hung suspended. Turala had never seen anything of its kind before, reptilian and massive, perched on its hind legs like a man. Ministira applauded enthusiastically. "My child," she crowed, "you have come so far in such a short time. What were you thinking when you summoned this Daedroth?" It took Turala a moment to recall whether she was thinking anything at all. She was merely overwhelmed that she had reached out across the fabric of reality into the realm of oblivion and plucked forth this lonesome creature, conjuring it into the world by the power of her mind. "I was thinking of the colour red," Turala said, concentrating, the simplicity and the clarity of it, "and then I desired and spoke the charm, and this was what I conjured up." "Desire is a powerful force for a young witch," said Ministira, "and it is well matched in this instance. For this Daedroth is nothing if not a simple force of the spirits. Can you release your desire? Can you release your desire as easily?" Turala closed her eyes and spoke the dismissal invocation. The monster faded away like a painting in sunlight, still blinking confusedly. Ministira embraced her dark elf pupil, laughing with delight. "I never would have believed it. A month and a day, and you've been with the Coven, and you're already far more advanced than most of the women here. There's a powerful blood in you, Turala. You touch spirits like you were touching a lover. Maybe not a Daedroth, though, eh? You'll be leading this Coven one day. I have seen it." Turala smiled. It was good to be complimented. The Duke of Monhold had praised her pretty face and her family before she had dishonoured them and praised her manners. Cassia had been nothing more than a companion. His compliments meant nothing. But with Ministira, she felt she was home. "You'll be leading the Coven for many years yet, great sister," said Turala. "I certainly intend to, but the spirits, while marvellous companions and faultless tellers of truth, are often hazy about the whens and hows. You can't blame them, really. When and how mean so little to them." Ministira opened the door to the shed, allowing the brisk autumn breeze in to dispel the bitter and fetid smells of the Daedroth. "Now, I need you to run an errand to Wayrest. It's only a week's ride there and a week's ride back. Bring Doyatha and Selefyina with you. As much as we can try to be self-sufficient, there are herbs we can grow here, and it seems to run through an enormous quantity of gems in no time. In no time at all. It's important that the people of the city learn to recognize you as one of the wise women of Skeffington Coven. You'll find the benefits of being notorious far outweigh the inconveniences." Turilla did as she was bade. As she and her sisters climbed aboard their horses, Ministira brought her child, a little 5-month Bosriel, to kiss her mother goodbye. The witches were in love with the little Dunmer infant, fathered by a wicked duke, birthed by a wild alien elves in the forest heart of the Empire. Turella knew her nursemaids would protect her child with her lives. After many kisses and a farewell wave, the 3 young witches rode off into the bright woods under a covering of red, yellow, and orange. 2 days later, I think. For a midnight evening, the less-loved Porcupine Tavern was wildly crowded. A roaring fire in the pit in the corner of the room cast an almost sinister glow on all the regulars, and made the abundance of bodies look like a punishment tapestry inspired by the Arcturium heresies. Cassia took his usual place with his cousin and ordered a flagon of ale. "Have you been to see the Baron?" asked Pelias. "Yes, he may have worked for me in the Palace of Aias," said Cassia proudly. "But more than that I can't say. You understand, secrets of state and all that. Why are there so many damned people here tonight? A shipload of dark elves just came into harbour. They've come from the war. I was just waiting until you got here to introduce you as another veteran." Cassia blushed, but regained his composure enough to ask, "What are they doing here? Has there been a truce?" I don't know the full story, said Palyeth, but apparently the Empire and Vivek are in negotiations again. These fellas here have investments they were keen to check on, and they figured things in the bay were quiet enough. But the only way we can get the full story is to talk to the chaps. With that, Palyeth gripped his cousin's arm and pulled him to the other side of the bar so suddenly Cassia would have to struggle violently to resist. The Dunmer travellers were spread out across 4 of the tables, laughing with the locals. They were largely amiable young men, well-dressed, befitting merchants, animated in gesture and made more extravagant by liquor. "Excuse me," said Palyeth, intruding on the conversation. My shy cousin Cassia was in the war as well, fighting for the living god Vivek. The only Cassia I've ever heard of, said one of the Dunmer drunkenly, with a wild, friendly smile, shaking Cassia's free hand, was Cassia Whiteley, who Vivek said was the worst spy in history. We lost Al-Marek due to his bungling intelligence work. For your sake, friend, I hope the two of you were never confused. Cassia smiled and listened as the lout told the story of his failure with bountiful exaggerations which caused the table to roar with laughter. Several eyes looked his way, but none of the locals sought to explain the fool of the tale was standing at attention. The eyes that stung the most were his cousin's, the young man who had believed that he had returned to the Dwinnen a great hero. At some point, certainly, the Baron would hear about it, his idiocy increasing manifold with each retelling. With every fibre of his soul, Cassia cursed the living god Vivek. So I am it. Okay, so 9 days later in the Imperial City, Corda, in a robe of blinding whiteness, a uniform of the priestess of Hegath Norwa Conversatorium, arrived in the city just as the first winter storm was passing. The clouds broke with the sunlight, and the beauteous teenage red-guard girl appeared in the wide avenue with escort riding towards the palace. While her sister was tall, thin, angular, and hoity, Corda was a small, round-faced lass with wide brown eyes. The locals were quick to draw comparisons. Not a month after Lady Rijah's execution, muttered a housemaid, peering out of the window and winking to a neighbour. And not a month out of her nunnery either, the other woman agreed, revelling in the scandal. This one's in for a ride. Her sister weren't no innocent, and look where she ended up. 3 days later, Cassia stood on the harbour and watched the early sleet fall on the water. It was a pity, he thought, that he was prone to seasickness. There was nothing for him now in Tamriel to the east nor to the west. Vivek's tale of his poor spycraft had spread to taverns everywhere. The Baron of Dwinnen had released him from his contract. No doubt they were laughing about him in Daggerfall too, and Dawnstar, Limonth, Rimmon, Greenheart, probably in Akavir, and Jokuda, for that matter. Perhaps it would be best to drop into the waves and sink. The thought, however, did not stay long in his mind. It was not despair that haunted him, but rage. Impotent fury that he could not assuage. "Excuse me, sir," said a voice behind him, making him jump. "I'm sorry to disturb you, but I was wondering whether you could recommend an inexpensive tavern for me to spend the night." It was a young man, a Nord, with a sack over his shoulder. Obviously, he had just disembarked from one of the boats. For the first time in weeks, someone was looking at Cassia as something other than a colossal, famous idiot. He could not help, black as his moon was, but be friendly. "You've just arrived from Skyrim?" asked Cassia. "No, sir, that's where I'm going," said the fellow. "I'm working my way home. I've come from Sentinel, and before that Stross Mackay, and before that Woodhearth in Valenwood, and before that Artium in Somerset. Wellegg's my name." Cassia introduced himself and shook Wellegg's hand. "Did you say you come from Artium? Are you a Sijic?" "No, sir, not anymore." The fellow shrugged. "I was expelled." "Do you know anything about summoning Daedra?" "You see, I want to cast a curse against a particularly powerful person, one might say a living god, and I haven't had any luck. The Baron won't allow me in his sight, but the Baroness has sympathy for me and allowed me to use the use of their summoning chambers." Cassia spat. "I did all the rituals, made the sacrifices, but nothing came of it." That because of Soseth Sil, my old master," replied Wellegg with some bitterness. "The Daedra princes have agreed not to be summoned by any amateurs, at least until the war ends. Only the Sijics may counsel with the Daedra, and a few nomadic sorcerers and witches. Witches, you say? It's all coming together. The 29th. Pale sunlight flickered behind the mist bathing the forest as Turella and the other two drove their horses on. The ground was wet with a thin layer of frost and laden down with goods. It was a slippery way over the unpaved hills. Turella tried to contain her excitement about coming back to the Coven. Wayres had been an adventure. She adored the looks of fear and respect the city folk gave her, but for the last few days, all she could think of was returning to her sisters and her child. A bitter wind whipped her hair forward so she could see nothing but the path ahead. She did not hear the rider approach to her side until he was almost upon her. When she turned and saw Cassia, she shouted with as much surprise as pleasure, with as much surprise as pleasure in meeting an old friend. His face was pale and drawn, but she took it to be merely from travel. What brings you back to Veriax? She replied. Were you not treated well in Dwinnen? Well enough, said Cassia. I have need of the Skeffington Coven. Ride with us, said Turella. I'll bring you to Ministera. The floor continued on, and the witches regaled Cassia with tales of Wayrest. It was evident that it was also a rare treat for those two to leave old Barben's farm. They had been born there as daughters and granddaughters of the Skeffington witches. Ordinarily, High Rock City life was exotic to them. High Rock City life was exotic to them as it was to Turella. Cassia said little, but smiled and nodded his head, which was encouragement enough. Thankfully, none of the stories they had heard were about his own stupidity, or at the very least, they didn't tell him. Dorothea was in the midst of a tale she had heard in the tavern about a thief who had been locked overnight in the pawn shop when they crossed over a familiar hill. Suddenly, she halted in her story. The barn was supposed to be visible, but it was not. The other three followed her gaze into the fog, and a moment later they rode as fast as they could towards what was once the site of Skeffington Coven. The fire had long since burned out. Nothing but ashes, skeletons, and broken weaponry remained. Cassia recognized at once the signs of an orc raid. The witches fell from their horses, racing through the remains, wailing. Selefina found a tattered, bloody piece of cloth that she recognized from Ministera's cloak. She held it to her ashen face, sobbing. Turella screamed for Bosriel, but the only reply was the high whistling wind through the ashes. Who did this? She cried, tears streaking down her face. I swear I'll conjure up the very flames of oblivion. What have they done with my baby? I know who did it, said Cassia quietly, dropping from his horse and walking towards her. I've seen those weapons before. I fear I met with the very fiends responsible in Dwinnen, but I never thought they'd find you. This is the work of the assassins hired by the Duke of Mournhold. He paused. The lie came easily. Adopt and improvise. That's what's more, you could tell instantly that she believed it. A resentment over the cruelty of the Duke had shown her had quietened, but never disappeared. One look at her burning eyes told him that she would summon the Daedra and wreak his and her vengeance upon Morrowind. And what's more, he knew they'd listen. And listen they did. For the power that is greater than desire is rage. Even rage misplaced. Ooh, Cassia, you devil! That was quite a long one. That's what she said. Another one from Cassia, so I guess it's going to be another. Okay, not as long. Balmora, yay! In the year 2920. What year is it now? Before we start this one, doesn't say. That bit of, in that book there about the summoning was actually quite interesting. You know, especially to Karish, because Karish, you know, just kind of just does that anyway. He's been doing it forever. You know, it took you a month, and you were trained. Karish taught himself, and you know, it just shows, I suppose, that Karish is actually really quite adept and talented in summoning. The fact that he's got so good so quickly. So, go him. Okay, and Yeah, so I suppose there might be... You know what? I should have read these in order. Because, mind you, I don't know which one actually is the first one. I didn't realize it was all part of a set, but now it's kind of obvious. Anyway, we'll do this one next. The Imperial Army is gathered to the south, Cassia. We are 2 weeks' march from Ald Uval and Lake Kuranati, heavily armoured. Vivek nodded. So this could be about his failure as a spy. Okay. Ald Iluvai, Uval, and its sister city were on the other side of Lake Ald Malek, were strategically important fortresses. He had been expected to move against them for some time. His captain pulled down a map of the southwestern Morrowind from the wall and smoothed it out, fighting a gentle summer breeze wafting in from the open window. They were heavily armoured, you say? Asked the captain. Yes, sir, said Cassia. They were camped out near Bethel Grey in the Heartland, and I saw nothing but ebony, dwarven, and daedric armour, fine weaponry, and siege equipment. How about spellcasters and boats, said Vivek. A horde of battle mages, replied Cassia, but no boats. As heavily armoured as they are, it will take them at least 2 weeks, like you said, to get them from Bethel Grey to the lake. Vivek studied the map carefully. They'd be dragged down by the bogs if they tried to circle around to Almarek from the south, so they must be planning to cross the straits here and take Ald Uval. Then they'd proceed around the lake to the east and take Almarek from the south. They'll be vulnerable along the straits, said the captain, provided we strike when they are more than halfway across and they can't retreat back to the Heartland. Your intelligence has once again served us well, said Vivek, smiling to Cassia. We will beat back the Imperial aggressors yet again. The next day. Will you be returning back this way after your victory? Asked Lord Bethal. Prince Juliak barely paid the man any attention. He was focused on the army packing its camp. It was a cool morning in the forest, but there were no clouds. All the makings of a hot afternoon march, particularly in such heavy armour. If we return shortly, it will be because of defeat, said the prince. He could see down the meadow the potentate Versidu Shay paying his lordship's steward for the use of the village's food, wine, and whores. An army was an expensive thing for certs. For certs, I like that. Sorry if I struggle with some of these words, but I've never seen them before in my entire life. The prince, said Lord Bethal with concern. My prince, said Lord Bethal with concern. Is your army beginning to march due east? That will just lead you to the shores of Lake Kuranati. You want to go southeast to get to the straits. You just make certain your merchants get their share of our gold, said the prince with a grin. Let me worry about my army's direction. Oof. So this is almost 2 weeks later. Vivek stared across the blue expanse of the lake, seeing his reflection and the reflection of his army in the cool blue waters. What he did not see was the Imperial Army's reflection. They must have reached the straits by now, barring any mishaps in the forest. Tall, feather-thin lake trees blocked much of his view of the straits, but an army, particularly one clad in snow-moving heavy armour, could not move invisibly, silently. Let me see the map again, he called to his captain. Is there no other way they could approach? I have sentries posted in the swamps to the north, in case they're fool enough to get there and bogged under, said the captain. We would at least hear about it, but there is no other way across the lake except through the straits. Vivek looked down again at his reflection, which seemed to be distorting his image, mocking him. He looked back at the map. Spy, said Vivek, calling Cassia over. When you said the army had a horde of battle mages, what made you so certain they were battle mages? They were wearing grey robes with a mystical insignia on them, explained Cassia. I figured they were mages, and why else would such a vast number travel with the army? They couldn't have been healers. You fool, roared Vivek. They're mystics schooled in the art of alteration. They've cast a spell of water breathing on the entire army. Vivek ran to a new vantage point where he could see the north. Across the lake, through it, was but a small shadow on the horizon. They could see gouts of flame from the assault on Ald Marek. Vivek bellowed with fury, and his captain got to work at once, redirecting the army to circle the lake and defend the castle. Return to Dwinen, said Vivek flatly to Asir before he rode off to join the battle. Your services are no longer needed nor wanted. It was already too late when the Morrowind army neared Almarek, had been taken by the Imperial army. Ah, yes. So, 3 days later, the Potentate arrived in the Imperial city amid great fanfare, the streets lined with men and women cheering him as a symbol of the taking of Aldmarac. Truth be told, the greater number would have turned out had the prince returned, and the Versidue Shay knew it. Still, it pleased him no end. Never before had the citizens of Tamriel cheered the arrival of an Akaveri into their land. The Emperor Reman III greeted him with a warm embrace, and then tore into the letter he had brought from the prince. I don't understand, he said at last, still joyous but equally confused. You went under the lake? Almarac is a very well-fortified fortress, explained the Potentate. As I might add, the army of Morrowind has rediscovered, now that they are on the outside. To take it, we had to attack by surprise with our soldiery in the sturdiest of armour. By casting the spell that allowed us to breathe underwater, we were able to travel faster than Vivek would have guessed. The weight of the armour made less by the aquatic surroundings. An attack from the waterbound west side of the fortress, where the defences were at their weakest. Brilliant! The Emperor crowed. You are a wondrous tactician. If your fathers had been as good at this as you are, Tamriel would be Akaveri domain. The Potentate had not planned to take credit for the Prince Dulec's design, but on the Emperor's reference to his people's fiasco at the invasion 216 years ago, he made up his mind. He smiled modestly and soaked up the praise. Saviren Charak slithered into the wall and watched through the arrow slit the Morrowind army. Retreating back to the forest line between the swamps and the castle grounds. It seemed like the ideal opportunity to strike. Perhaps the fortress could be burned and the army within them. Perhaps with Vivek in their enemies' hands, the army would allow them possession of Ald Eoval as well. He suggested these ideas to the prince. What you seem to be forgetting, laughed Prince Juliak, is that I gave my word that no harm to the army or to their commanders during the truce negotiations. Do you not have honor during warfare in Akavir? My prince, I was born here in Tamriel. I have never been to my people's home, replied the snake man. But even so, your ways are strange to me. You expect no quarter, and I give you none when we fought in the Imperial Arena 5 months ago. That was a game, replied the prince, before nodding to his steward to let the Dunmer battle chief in. Juliak had never seen Vivek before, but he had heard he was a living god. What came in before him was but a man. Powerfully built man, handsome, with an intelligent face, but a man nonetheless. The prince was pleased. A man he could speak with, but not a god. Greetings, my worthy adversary, said Vivek. We seem to be at an impasse. Not necessarily, said the prince. You don't want to give us Morrowind, and I can't fault you for that, but I must have your coastline to protect the Empire from overseas aggressions, and certain key strategic border castles such as this one, as well as Ald Umbiel, Tel Arun, Tel Lambassi, and Tel Moth Rivra. And in return, asked Vivek, in return, laughed the lizard person, you forget we are the victors here, not you. In return, said Prince Juliak, carefully, there will be no Imperial attacks on Morrowind unless in return from an attack by you. You will be protected from invaders by the Imperial Navy, and your land may expand by taking certain estates in Black Marsh, whichever you choose, provided they are not needed by the Empire. A reasonable offer, said Vivek after a pause. You must forgive me. I am unused to Cyrodiils who offer something in return for what they take. May I have a few days to decide? We'll meet again in a week's time, said the prince, smiling. In the meantime, if your army provokes no attacks on mine, we are at peace. Vivek left the prince's chamber, feeling that Amalexia was right. The war was at an end. This prince would make an excellent emperor. The year is continued in Sun's Height. Morning Star. I don't know whether we should read Morning Star. It's all out of frickin' Order. Okay, same as last one. Okay. Alexia lay in her bed of fur, dreaming. Not until the sun burned through the window, infusing the light wood and flesh colours of her chambers in a milky glow, did she open her eyes. It was quiet and serene, a stunning reverse of the flavour of her dreams, so full of blood and celebration. For a few moments, she simply stared at the ceiling, trying to sort through her visions. In the courtyard of her palace was a boiling pool, which steamed in the coolness of the winter morning. At the wave of her hand, it cleared, and she saw the face and form of her lover Vivek in his study to the north. She did not want to speak right away. He looked so handsome in his dark red robes, writing his poetry as he did every morning. Vivek, she said, and he raised his head in a smile, looking at her face across thousands of miles. I have seen a vision of the end of the war. After 80 years, I don't think anyone can imagine an end, said Vivek with a smile, but he grew serious, trusting Alexi's prophecies. Who will win, Morrowind or the Empire? Without Sothersil in Morrowind, we will lose, she replied. My intelligence tells me the Empire will strike us to the north in early springtime, by first seed at the latest. Could you go to Ateum and convince him to return? I'll leave today, she said, simply. The Empress paced around her cell. Wintertide gave her wasteful energy, while in summer she would merely sit by her window and be grateful of each breath of stale swamp wind that came in to cool her. Across the room, her unfinished tapestry of a dance of the imperial court seemed to mock her. She ripped it from its frame, tearing the pieces apart as they drifted to the floor. Then she laughed at her own useless gesture of defiance. She would have plenty of time to repair it and craft 100 more. The Emperor had locked her up in Castle Gioves 7 years ago, and would likely to keep her here until he or she died. With a sigh, she pulled the cord to call her knight, Zook. He appeared at the door within minutes, fully uniformed as befitting an Imperial Guard. Most of the native Kothringi tribesmen of Black Marsh preferred to go about naked, but Zook had taken a positive delight to fashion. His silver, reflective skin was scarcely visible, only on his face, neck, and hands. Your Imperial Highness, he said with a bow. Zook, said Empress Tavia. I'm bored. Let's discuss methods of assassinating my husband today. The chimes proclaiming South Wind's prayer echoed through the wide boulevards and gardens of the Imperial City, calling all to their temples. The Emperor Reman III always attended a service at the Temple of the One, while his son and heir, Prince Juliak, found it more political to attend the service at a different temple for each religious holiday. This year, it was at the Cathedral of Benevolence of Mara. The Benevolence's services were mercifully short, but it was not until well after noon that the Emperor was able to return to the palace. By then, the arena combatants were impatiently waiting for the start of the ceremony. The crowd was far less restless, as the potentate had arranged for the demonstration from a troupe of Khajiit acrobats. Your religion is so much more convenient than mine, said the Emperor to his potentate by way of an apology. What is the first game? A one-on-one battle between two able warriors, said the potentate, his scaly skin catching the sun as he rose, and befitting their culture. Sounds good, said the Emperor and clapped his hands. Let the sport commence. As soon as he saw the two warriors enter the arena to the roar of the crowd, Emperor Reman III remembered that he had agreed to this several months before and forgotten about it. One combatant was the potentate's son, Sav Irian Chorak, the glistening ivory yellow eel, gripping a katana and whack Izaski with his thin, deceptively weak-looking arms. The other was the Emperor's son, Prince Juliak, in ebony armour with a savage orcish helm, shield and longsword at his side. This will be fascinating to watch, hissed the potentate, as a wide grin crossed his narrow face. I don't know if I've ever seen a Cyrodiil fight in Akavir like this. Usually it's army against army. At least we can settle which philosophy is better, to create armour to combat swords, as your people do, or create swords to combat armour, as mine do. No one in the crowd, aside from a few scattered Akaviri councillors and the potentate himself, wanted Sav Sav to win, but there was a collective intake of breath at the sight of his graceful movements. His sword seemed to be a part of him, a tail coming from his arms to match the one behind him. It was a trick of counterbalance, allowing the young serpent man to roll up into a circle and spin to the center of the ring in an offensive position. The prince had to plod forward the less impressive traditional way. As they sprang at each other, the crowd bellowed with delight. The Akavira was like a moon in orbit around the prince, effortlessly springing over his shoulder to attempt to blow from behind, but the prince whirled round quickly to block with his shield. His counter-strike met only air as his foe fell flat on the ground and slithered between his legs, tripping him. The prince fell to the ground with a resounding crash. Metal and air melted together as Sav rained strike after strike upon the prince, who blocked everyone with his shield. "We don't have shields in our culture," murmured Shay to the Emperor. "It seems strange to my boy, I imagine. In our country, if you don't want to get hit, you move out of the way." When Sav was rearing back to begin another series of blinding attacks, the prince kicked at his tail, sending him falling back momentarily. In an instant, he had rebounded, but the prince was also back on his feet. The two circled one another until the snake man spun forward, katana extended. The prince saw his foe's plan and blocked the katana with his long sword and the other one with his shield. Its short punching blade impaled itself in the metal, and Sav was thrown off balance. The prince's long blade slashed across the Akavar's chest, and the sudden intense pain caused him to drop both his weapons. At a moment, it was over. Sav was prostrate in the dust with the prince's longsword at his throat. "The game's over," shouted the Emperor, barely heard over the applause from the stadium. The prince grinned and helped Sav up and over to a healer. The Emperor clapped his potentate on the back, feeling relieved. He had not realized when the fight had begun how little chance he had given his son of victory. He will make a fine warrior," said Shay, "and a great Emperor. Just remember," laughed the Emperor, "you Akaviri have a lot of showy moves, but if just one of our strikes comes through, it's all over for you." "Oh, I'll remember that," nodded the potentate. Raman thought about that comment for the rest of the games, and had trouble fully enjoying himself. Could the potentate be another enemy, just as the Emperors had turned out to be? The matter would bear watching. And this is a week later. "Why don't you wear that green gown I gave you?" asked the Duke of Monhold, watching the young maiden put on her clothes. "It doesn't fit," smiled Tarala, "and you know I like red." "Doesn't fit because you're getting fat," laughed the Duke, pulling her down to the bed, kissing her breasts and the pouch of her stomach. She laughed at the tickles, but pulled herself up, wrapping her red robe around her. "I'm round like a woman should be," said Tarala. "Will I see you tomorrow?" "No," said the Duke. "I must entertain Vivek tomorrow, and the next day the Duke of Ebonheart is coming. Do you know, I never really appreciated Amalexia and her political skills until she left." "That is the same with me," smiled Tarala. "You will only appreciate me when I'm gone." That's not true at all," snorted the Duke. "I appreciate you now." Tarala allowed the Duke one last kiss before she was out the door. She kept thinking about what he said. Would he appreciate her more or less when he knew that she was getting fat because she was carrying his child? Would he appreciate enough to marry her? The year continues at sun's dawn. Yes, yeah. So, oops. I don't know whether I'll ever get them all, so I might as well read them all as I get them. But yeah, that's all a bit of a shame, isn't it? I read them all out of order. Whoopsie-doo. You guys can piece it all together, though, I am sure. Right then. I suppose I shall be heading off. I suppose then, just as a thought, this one increased conjuration, maybe. That one, heavy armor. And this one, I don't know, maybe alteration. Can't remember what they increased now. But they all have a theme, don't they, behind what they increase. So it's quite clever as well. Okay, guys. Well, hopefully I will see you this Sunday for more Morrowind. Once again, thank you very much for watching and your continued attention. I do very much appreciate it. And I shall see you all very soon. Until then, you guys take care. Toodaloo.